What's up, everybody? This is Keith from Culture Athletics, and I'm going to run you through a full athletic development session that I just did recently. Finally getting back on the train of making these videos again. I'm excited. I really am committed to making these videos and giving better perspective into training for athleticism as an older adult, almost reaching 40 now. So I want to do my due diligence on making these videos for everybody. So let's get into it. In this session right now, this is a typical Friday session for me. What you're going to see is me starting out with some light loaded fast power work. I'll do anything from sprints, jumping, different variations, plyometrics, and what you just saw in here is I started off with back rack squat jumps, where just trying to get as much power out of the whole, specifically because I'm in an Olympic lifting emphasized athletic development cycle. So I have about 40 to 50% of my body weight on the bar and roughly the same on the sled here, and just working at high rates of exertion. I'm being very careful about my intensity and volume here because I can do too much with this and then feel flat going into my Olympic lifting. So I do have to make sure that I don't go either too heavy or too much volume. And another thing I've realized is doing too much intensive plyometrics will also make me feel pretty flat for the Olympic lifts. So yeah, so you can see just me going through these, giving you the, I guess switch this up into the money shot, the booty shot angle here. Although I don't really make any money off of that, unfortunately. Finishing up with my last set here, and then I'm going to move into my Olympic lifts. Starting off with, well, actually, I think I built up to 205 in my working set still, but starting off this video at 205. Now, what I'm doing here is just clean and jerk on it's either on the minute or on the 90 seconds, somewhere in that range. And I'm doing a slow pull clean into a pause dip jerk. So I've been working these ranges of percentages for a couple weeks or a few weeks now, and to continue developing my power and explosiveness here, I can't just do the same thing over and over and over at the same loads or increase the loads week to week. I had to add basically some overload in the form of technique or positions or form, and so that's what I'm doing with the slow pull squat clean, because with that slow pull, it emphasizes some position and technique, but it also really incentivizes a faster or an explosive takeoff towards the hip. And then sort of the same with the pause jerk dip. You pause, you take out that stretch reflex, you really got to explode out of the bottom, and it really helps you build that form and technique there in the bottom of the dip position. So worked mostly at 215 for several sets, I think, and then went to 220 because it was feeling really good. This also felt really good if I remember right. So knowing myself, probably went up to 225. Yep, went to 225 on this day. And this is my current max. This was also my max back about 15 years ago when I first actually hit 225 pounds, but have lost quite a lot by not doing any of this for the past 5 years. So you can see I'm pretty annoyed with that, but I need to be more patient. I have to learn to be more patient with my Olympic lifting process at near 40 rather than in my 20s. So backing off now into my snatches, my snatch work after my clean and jerk work on Fridays is more moderate percentages, working on some explosiveness, but mostly power and technique. And my snatch is still limited by the same thing it always was, and that's that overhead squat balance, the bottom of a snatch position, balance and mobility. So I'm always challenged by that, constantly trying to work on that position. I've actually seen a lot of improvements with it by focusing on it more than I ever did in my 20 years of Olympic lifting, but I really have to catch my power and max strength up, something I'll go over in a future video since my last Olympic lifting video, which was a max out Friday. So moving on from my Olympic lifts into some back squat strength work, and this is intensity work, so I don't know what I'm doing on my first set here, but I'm going to do a few singles at 90% and above, and really getting more comfortable with these high intensity squats. I took years off of bilateral squatting, and I also took years off of like high exertion lower body work due to some well, actually it was just one injury in my lower body from mountain biking, but I also had 2 bad injuries in my left AC joint from mountain biking, which just compounds on the multiple injuries I've had in my left shoulder, which is why I suck at pressing. You'll see here in a couple minutes. But yeah, so hitting some high intensity squats. I know there's been some brawling going on online on Instagram with Mike Boyle making a comment that you shouldn't be training at less than 5 rep maxes or high intensity 5 reps for older adults, or I wouldn't consider myself an older adult, but middle age or adults, really anything outside of competitive performance. And I largely agree with that from a general perspective, but there's a lot of nuance in it. I mean, if you look at Westside, tons of people are training into their 50s and even 60s and training for high level powerlifting. So you can do it if you have the background, you can do it if you have the patience and the right approach to it. I'm comfortable getting back into it for myself. I'm having absolutely no issues with it, other than it's a hard and long process compared to when it was 15, 20 years ago for myself. So here I'm moving into some still high intensity work with my pressing. I suck at pressing, always did. I've only been able to bench press 235 for 4 reps back in college, but that was previous to my first shoulder injury, and I've had multiple shoulder injuries after that. So here I am, I still suck at pressing, but I'm pressing my max right here from like 2010. So we'll see what that can develop into if I put more effort into it. And then some pulling work. I love doing Pendlay rows. I've been really, really enjoying my back progressions in the past several months. I really never had a good, realistically, I never had really good upper body strength, but I've really been developing this. I don't think I've ever been able to do 185 for 3 reps in the Pendlay row, and here I am doing that. That's something I didn't back off on in the past few years, was doing some pulling work. So developing that really well. Finishing off with something a little bit different this week. So traditionally I would do core work, something like this, or hanging straight leg raises or toes to bar, something like that, and then hit bike sprints on the assault bike. But because soccer season is coming up in about a month to 6 weeks, I need to get my conditioning and my work capacity up higher, because I've been emphasizing Olympic lifting. So I'm doing a big set of 15. These aren't real GHD setups, but I don't like full GHD setups like you see in CrossFit. I don't think that they're great for my low back or my hip flexors. I really pull on those, but threw it into an 8-minute EMOM of 15 med ball sit-ups on the GHD, then 10 box jump step down, to start developing a little bit more lower body stamina, which is something that I will really need for a soccer match. And then 10 cows on the bike, I think I did here. So yeah, I'm going to be emphasizing some lower body stamina in my conditioning for the remainder of this cycle, and then probably get more specific in my conditioning for soccer coming up in about 6 weeks. All right, so that concludes a full athletic development session with an Olympic lifting emphasis, and stay tuned for more, and I hope you got a little bit out of this.